Welcome to the Touch MBA Admissions Podcast. Do you need help figuring out which schools to apply to or how to get into the world's top MBA programs? Hey, you're not alone. Join thousands of others on this podcast and on our site, touchmba.com, as they seek the admissions edge. And now, here's your host, Darren Joe.
What's up, guys? It's Darren. Welcome to the Touch MBA podcast. This week, I brought on the Director of MBA Admissions and Recruitment from the Wisconsin MBA. That's Betsy Kacizak, as well as her colleague Brad Chandler, who is the Director of the Nicholas Center for Corporate Finance and Investment Banking at the Wisconsin School of Business. And yes, it's a bit unusual for us to have two guests on the show at the same time, but I think it's really important that both Brad and Betsy were on this episode because the directors of the 10 specializations that the Wisconsin MBA offers play a really important role in the program in terms of connecting students to industry and vice versa, and setting up applied learning opportunities that keep students at the cutting edge of those specializations. So I hope you get a lot of value from this show, especially those of you applying to the Wisconsin MBA. I think you'll get a really good idea of what the admissions team is looking for. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and remember that at touchmba.com, we believe that school selection is just as important as the application itself. So we want to help applicants make the best decision there in terms of what their short list of schools is. So if you're having trouble drawing up your short list, go head over to touchmba.com. We'd be happy to give you some free advice there, help you, give you an idea of your competitiveness at your target programs, and point you in the direction of some programs that we think might be a good fit for you. So check all that out at touchmba.com. I'd like to welcome Betsy Kacizak, Director of MBA Admissions, and Brad Chandler, the Director of the Nicholas Center for Corporate Finance and Investment Banking at the Wisconsin School of Business, the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Betsy and Brad, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Darren.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So this is the first time we're going to try to have two guests talk at the same time, but I'm really excited to have both of you on the show. Betsy, I know you have a lot of experience in the MBA admissions world. Would you mind giving a quick intro?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, I have a number of years of experience. I've been with the Wisconsin School of Business for about 14 years. In my roles, I've been both on the career side, so I did MBA Career Management and also MBA Admissions and Recruitment. I did have a little bit of a gap in between my time here at UW, where I spent 7 years at the Graduate Management Admission Council, and I worked with a variety of member schools in North America to kind of help them with some of their marketing and recruitment, and also educate them on some of the research that GMAC does.
Perfect. Yes. And so GMAC is the body that administers the GMAT test.
That is correct. But I always like to tell prospective students that I had nothing to do with the test. I just worked with the schools.
Yes. But they also produce, some amazing research on what's going on in the business school world. And Brad, I know you're the director of, as I mentioned, the Nicholas Center. And I'm really excited to have you on the show because we haven't had like a director for a center on the Touch MBA podcast. So I think this will be very eye-opening for a lot of our listeners about how those centers work and how that works at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, Wisconsin School of Business. Could you give a quick intro about your background as well?
Yeah, sure. And I think I'm a pretty unique person to be at a business school. So I think it'll be fun to get into what we think makes Wisconsin unique. And certainly our centers here are one of the things that we think make us very unique. But I am the director of the Nicholas Center, which is all the students that are interested in corporate finance and investment banking. So they're interested in that career path. We think of that pretty broadly. So students come in and do maybe work inside a company, inside a big corporation, maybe they do consulting, or investing and things like that. But my background is I was on Wall Street working with Morgan Stanley and their investment bank for 10 years prior to joining the Wisconsin School of Business. I was a managing director in the investment banking division there. So I feel like I can bring some of that industry and practical knowledge that can really help accelerate students' career and professional development. And that's what I focus on.
Oh, fantastic. So yeah, let's just jump into the first question I ask in every episode. And Brad, you touched on it, but what makes the Wisconsin MBA unique from so many other great MBA programs in the U.S.?
Yeah, Darren, so I'll kind of field that one, and I think Brad will chime in on the specifics of the specializations that we offer. So at Wisconsin, we're not your typical general management program. We do give our students general management through our core courses in the first year, but we really are a specialized MBA. And we're specialized from the standpoint that students actually will select one of 10 career specializations at the time that they apply. So we're really kind of looking for that focused individual who knows kind of the functional area of business that they want to get into. And part of that is so that they can actually start that deep dive in the first semester of their first year by taking some classes within their specialization along with the core. And then on top of it, they have this applied learning that happens typically on Fridays that is very unique by each of the 10 specializations. Brad happens to be the director of one of the 10, which is the corporate finance and investment banking. And each of the specializations has a Brad-like person who is an industry expert who can give that additional in-depth knowledge and expertise in that particular field. And I'll kind of let Brad maybe share a little bit of the specifics about what happens in the Nicholas Center so you can see kind of, again, a uniqueness that we have here at Wisconsin.
Yeah, I would say what really attracted me to join the Wisconsin School of Business was the fact that this position exists. So it's a way for me to share my experience. I both teach classes that we think are important preparatory classes for students, and also am a mentor and career professional coach as they're going through both their preparation for interviews, during the interviews, once they get the internship offer, how to prepare, and then even as they're starting their career, how to prepare for that. So it's someone who, what makes us unique is that with these directors, I get to know the students actually before they show up on campus. So I actually had a prospective student in my office this morning, and a person that we've admitted and talking about how can he best prepare for the MBA program. And we will be in touch and be actually working through the summer on that. And then when they're here, I teach the very first class in our specialization. That is a financial modeling and valuation class. It's a class that helps all students really prepare for interviews in a really important way. And then kind of throughout that whole 2-year experience, I'm there with them and helping provide guidance. And I think that's something that helps supplement the career coaching that we also have, as well as all of our great PhD faculty that teach, really interesting and great courses. So it's really an added bonus in my mind.
And are the directors of the 10 different career specializations, are they all practitioners like yourself?
Yes, actually they are.
Yeah, we try to focus that position on practitioners that have experience in that particular field. And by the way, we also have great tenured faculty in those specializations as well, who are more on the research and teaching side. But we want to combine the practical experience of being in the industry with that, deep thinking and theory that many of our tenured professors provide as well.
Yeah, and I noticed when I was researching for this podcast that you also have this extensive board, right, for the Nicholas Center that helps students with probably career advice, I'm guessing, and connections and so forth. Is that similar across the other 10 specializations as well?
Yeah, what we try to do is we create a little community of people who are interested in this specialization. And you can imagine there's the current cohort of students that are coming through. But once that cohort graduates and we have, alumni, we've had, years and years of alumni coming through those programs, those people now are in senior positions and decision-making positions in the in the types of companies that people care about. So what we have is an advisory board. It's typically people that have gone through our program or other business leaders that want to recruit or have a special place with our program. And that's something that is sort of a built-in network that our students get right when they arrive on campus. And it makes the recruiting process so much easier when there's a key decision maker that you feel like you can call and really talk to and ask maybe those like silly questions that you wouldn't really want to ask in like a real interview situation. So we're really focused on providing a network that can help students in their particular focus area.
Yeah, and Betsy, like I was wondering, you've been with the program for so long. Has the Wisconsin MBA had these 10 specializations? I'm going to just read them out loud so our audience knows what they are. They seem split up within 4 broader academic areas. So the marketing MBA specializations are marketing research and brand product management. The finance MBA specializations are corporate finance and investment banking, which Brad, as we mentioned, is the director of the center there. Applied security analysis, real estate, risk management, and insurance. Then the operations MBA specializations are operations and technology management and supply chain management. And the strategic management MBA specializations are strategic human resource management and arts administration. So I just want our audience to know those so they can kind of think about what they're most interested in. But Betsy, could you tell us about the history of this Wisconsin's focus on these specializations?
Yeah. So, gosh, how many years ago has it been? It's been a while, but under our former dean, Mike Knetter, when he first came to the school, I would have characterized our program as kind of a general management program with maybe some specializations. So, for example, the A.C. Nielsen Center for Marketing Research, the Granger Center for Supply Chain Management, the Erdman Center for Operations and Technology Management, they were all around in kind of this current format that we had, but we only had a few of them. So our students, when they came into the program, if they had an interest, let's say, in marketing, some of them would just go into a marketing MBA, and then some would specialize in marketing research. And as Mike was here, and all of us also witnessed this, we realized that the students in kind of these more focused and specialized areas were having better experiences because they kind of knew what they wanted to do. They had more resources because they had, again, each of these centers had a director who was an industry expert that brought this knowledge. They also had an employer base that really were very much attracted to these students because they had this MBA with a specialized focus. So Mike, coming from a general management program at his former school, kind of thought, well, should we do that? And then he quickly realized, absolutely not. This is Wisconsin's niche. We need to focus and give our students something a little bit different, and let's be a specialized MBA. So we really took a hard look at what we were good at and what we were great at. And we focused ourselves on the specializations. And they've changed because I think in the beginning we had an entrepreneurship specialization. And then after a while, we realized a lot of students want to be an entrepreneur. So we made it into a certificate that any of the students in any of the specializations can pursue. And then we kind of narrowed it down to the 10 that we have strong faculty, strong interest from employers, and also strong interest from our students. So today, we are now the Wisconsin MBA with the 10 specializations. And as you mentioned, they kind of fall into 4 maybe broader categories that students can kind of, as they're researching the program, they can kind of narrow it down that, oh, if I have an interest in finance, let me explore some of the areas within finance.
And Darren, one thing maybe from the specialization side as well, it may be daunting for an MBA student to proactively select exactly which specialization they would want to choose right at the point of application. And so let me tell you a little bit about our students and how we're set up. How do we practically make that a reality? Because I've seen some students know exactly what they want to do and they're very focused. Others say, look, one of the reasons I'm coming to the MBA is to discover and really clarify my career goals. And so what we see often is, one, in my specialization, we have finance experience and want to elevate their career into a different level of executive within finance. We see some come in with no finance experience. I've had a number of musicians who are fabulous, who are doing great, and they're looking to break into finance in some way, and they have they're looking for a program that can help them do that. Others come in with varying levels of professional experience and want to use finance as a skill set to do something broader, meaning they may want to do consulting, maybe they want to do a strategy position, a corporate development position, but essentially they want to use the finance skill to help them elevate and get into a different employment category. So we welcome all of those perspectives. And so we try to create a broad, we want you to come in with where you are and take you to where you want to go. And we're not prescribed about what that path looks like necessarily.
Yeah, I think for our program, as Brad's describing it, it's great for career switchers because we're giving them a deep dive in a functional area of business along with that general management. But we also benefit those career enhancers because, again, they're kind of fine-tuning their skills in a particular career path.
Yeah, and maybe we can use that as launching pad to talk about the culture and at the Wisconsin MBA, because I know it's a relatively smaller program, and I'm wondering how students interact, within the program, but also within their specializations, especially if, say there's someone with 6 years of finance experience and then the musician that you mentioned, right, in the same kind of cohort in that specialization.
Sure. Yeah. So I think for our culture, we are smaller and we actually like it that way. And I think our students do too. So it allows us to really get to know the students, but also the students to get to know each other and the faculty members. They spend their first year as a larger MBA group. So they do take all of their core classes together. They're broken up into 2 cohorts. They do get mixed up between their first and second semesters, so their teams switch up. But they are working cross-functionally together. And so from the beginning, they work with a variety of the specializations. But then they do have their core classes within their specialization classes, where they'll kind of focus a little bit more with the finance students and the corporate finance students. I don't know where else I'm going with this.
Yeah, and so one thing, maybe I'll just give you a window into our experience this semester, where we had a musician career changer who, by the way, received an equity research offer, which she accepted in New York City with Bank of America. So she really came in, did a great job, and got real kind of career success out of our program. But she was side by side with a CPA who had worked at Deloitte for 2 or 3 years before coming here, and it actually went really well. So in my program, when I teach that financial modeling and valuation, I teach it as if we are going to the board with like an M&A transaction. So we focus on Amazon and Whole Foods transaction. I teach it as if we are really going to the board and thinking about approving this transaction. So even that CPA person, there was a lot for that person to learn about how to do that well. And of course, I feel a little bit bad for the musician, but she was really had to take, an intense focus as she was going through the program. But her rate of change, meaning her development from just in one semester, was so stark that she was able to succeed in a really technical field and got an internship when really it would have been very challenging if they had only looked at her prior experience. So I think we try to make it where they both learn. And look, we all are here to learn and continue to learn. There's always new things for all of us to discover. And I think there's really a camaraderie around that in our program.
Yeah, Darren, I guess to kind of play off of that, part of our cultural fit is looking for that career passion that people have. And I think that level of enthusiasm and that desire to want to move into, a new area or enhance the current field that you're in really comes through. And because, as a smaller program, when you do get to know each other, the students are very supportive and collaborative and really want to be able to help each other out because they value the different and unique experiences that they each bring to the table. They learn as much from each other as they do from Brad and some of the other faculty members.
And what if... Oh, sorry, Brad, go ahead.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to highlight as well around what makes us unique, we have consulting projects with Fortune 500 companies that are built into our curriculum. So in our second year, once we teach the students the fundamentals they need to know, we say, okay, that's not enough. Now you need to encounter a real world problem that's unstructured, that's messy, where there are multiple solutions. And then you need to engage with a company, deliver your analysis, and stand before that decision maker and deliver your recommendations as a consulting firm would. And so one of the successes we've had this past year was we did a project with Amazon where we looked at, for Amazon's finance team, what are the impacts and how do we quantify the impacts from the tariffs that are happening with, the Chinese and U.S. trade war? Those tariffs, what are the impacts to Amazon and to Amazon's customers in the United States? So we had a team of 4 students that did that. They did a fantastic kind of original analysis that I helped sort of guide along the way and delivered that to 10 finance executives at Amazon. And I think will be, is sort of a really memorable and special way to not only learn the skill sets from a textbook and from me, but to actually apply them in a real situation for a real company. And that is a core part, I think, of what makes us different as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what if an MBA student comes in, let's take this musician that we've been talking about, and she started under, say, arts administration, but then she wanted to jump into, or switch specializations. Do you guys allow that?
Well, not really.
Okay. No, I mean, yeah.
It does. I'm sorry, Darren, it does happen. But I think what we look at is we're looking at the individual and their career passion. So if someone is toying between 2 different specializations, we really encourage them to set up, like we call it a consultation appointment with someone on the admissions team. So we can kind of walk through, what are you hoping to accomplish with this program? What do you want to get out of it? What do you want to learn? How do you want to transition your career? And, we will have on occasion people who have, will come into the program and want to switch. And it can happen in the first semester. But the problem is there's so much learning that's happening within that career specialization from day one that it can be kind of challenging, especially if it's a very polar opposite, like arts admin and corporate finance, very different areas. If it were between, marketing research and brand and product management, it's a little bit easier because there's some synergies that are already built into that program. But if anyone has questions about, what specialization, definitely meet with us. I also say sometimes process of elimination can also be very helpful because you can learn about one of the specializations and realize it's interesting, but not what you want to do. But we're here to kind of walk them through it and kind of talk through all of the different programs.
Yeah, that's crystal clear. And Brad, how much role do the students play or that the directors play in designing those applied learning projects?
So I am the person that will be in contact with the executive. So it's sort of a continuation of my professional career that I had. These are projects like you would have in an investment bank or in a consulting firm. So I manage those relationships and get the projects. The team then works with me and the team primarily does the work and then the team delivers the recommendation. But because I have the choice of what projects to do, I base those projects typically on career interest of the current students that are here. This is, again, another reason we like these smaller class sizes and having a little bit of a smaller program. For instance, we have a number of students in our second year that are really interested in real estate and are doing things within finance, but really within the real estate world. And so I was able to receive a project this year that's looking at the development of the single family rental market. And there's some interesting things that are happening on the of that as a project. And now 3 of my second year MBAs who have that as a career interest now get a very interesting way to apply their knowledge, but in a way that's also directly relevant to their career. And I had another one that we did. We have a number of people that are doing investment banking. So I was able to get an investment bank to have us do mergers and acquisition analysis that they would do for like one of their largest clients. And that's a project now. And so all those people that want to do investment banking can try that out and really, essentially you're getting work experience here, and it's a little bit easier to do it here and, fail, if you will, here before you kind of get on the job, later. So it's a very important part, and it's really, there's a lot of synergy between what the students want and what we ultimately choose for projects.
I think it's really neat. And Betsy, can applicants also be counseled by you guys, or do you only save that until after they're admitted? Like, because I'm sure many of them are thinking, oh no, which specialization would, best fit me?
Oh no, absolutely. Candidates, we want them to reach out to us and talk about, the program, their interests, their career goals. So we actually we set up a 30-minute consultation appointment, so we can do it by phone, video, like a Skype, or in person, where it's really about the candidate asking us questions, or the prospective student asking us questions about the program, their interests. We usually want to see their resume just so we have a sense of their background. And then we can kind of help, again, kind of guide them on some of the options that they can consider.
Yes. And I can't wait to get to the admissions side of this, but one last question. Why an MBA in Madison, Wisconsin?
Oh, why not? It's a great place to be. But on top of it, it's a fantastic program. And again, I have to go back to the career specializations. I think our model has really helped advance a lot of people's careers because it gives you something different. It gives you that core general management, which you find in a lot of MBA programs, which is perfect, but it gives you that deep dive in a functional area of business. And that doesn't mean that you're in that field for your entire life. It's that you're in that field from right after graduation, and how you develop and take your career, the sky's the limit, because at the end of the day, you have a Wisconsin MBA.
Yes. And Brad, do you have any comments about I think you got your MBA in Chicago, right?
I did. So I moved from New York City in my previous career to Wisconsin, to Madison. I echo, I think it's a great place to be. It's frequently regarded as a great place to live. I think I wrote a little essay, which I'm happy to send you the link to, about when I started. Why did I choose this school, especially after I was in New York with Morgan Stanley? Like, why did I choose this? And in that essay, which I'll send to you, I mentioned, one, it's really a way, look, focus creates advantages. When you're focused and you know what you want to do and you have a direction, then you have advantage over all those people who don't have that same direction. Two, this specialization was sort of calling out to me. It was sort of saying, look, Brad, this is a way for you to give back and you to help mentor and coach the next generation of leaders in that area that you know something about. And it's not, I can feel very authentic in trying to help in leading and helping students because I've been there, I had some success there. And so for me, it's been a very positive experience. I think there's a great camaraderie at Wisconsin. I think, the Wisconsin name and brand, there's a great affinity for it. And it's been fantastic to learn about and be a part of.
So right there, why should you consider the Wisconsin MBA? So that you can work with Brad. I mean, and other people like him who have that same passion in their career field and the passion to help students achieve their goals and help them advance their careers. And, we have 9 other people just like Brad who have that same passion.
No, I mean, I think it's really interesting how you guys essentially, force applicants to draw a line in the sand in terms of where they're most interested in, right? Like, as you said, they don't have to pursue careers in those areas, but most likely, that's what, you'd hope they would want to do. And kind of,
I guess that's from a long-term perspective, Darren. So I think most of them want to do it after the MBA, but long-term, if I'm in corporate finance, I might move into investment banking, or I might move into some other type of role, even a marketing role within an organization, because I still have those skill sets. So we still develop a well-rounded student, but usually they're very passionate right after graduation to go into that specialization.
So yeah, if we could turn our attention to the admissions side of things. Yeah, I'm really curious how this plays out in your admissions process, because I know you have a couple of your essay questions, you're asking about why have you selected your specialization of choice? What actions have you taken to better understand your intended specialization? And kind of what are your career goals immediately following the completion of your degree? And I'm wondering how specific students need to be in their vision of those two things.
Well, I think they have to be clear enough that they have a passion for that specialization. So as we mentioned, the student actually selects their specialization as part of the application process. So then their essays are very specific. Do I need them to lay out a lifelong plan of what they're going to do? No. What I want to know is really that, look, I'm here as a career switcher or a career enhancer. This is how I've kind of discovered this field. This is some of the things that I'm excited about, why, the reasons why I want to pursue it. And we do want them to at least start thinking about that short-term goal, which is really that immediate career following the MBA. And part of that too helps them then kind of hone in on when they're looking for internships, because that can happen like the first month they're here on campus in their first year. They have to start thinking about that internship. So we want them to, again, just have more of a career focus. Do they have to, do we force them to stay on that path for the next 2 years or life? No, it changes. I think even in Brad's area with, corporate finance and investment banking, students will get into the program. They'll have one direction they want to go in finance, and then maybe take a class or two and realize, this is interesting. I might want to explore this as an opportunity, and they can.
Absolutely. And also, what are the kind of cultural fit qualities you're looking for from your cohort or from applicants to the program?
I think we're looking for the student who has kind of a career passion, but someone who's going to be collaborative and supportive and wanting to work in an inclusive environment and a very diverse environment. We really value the variety of people's backgrounds that they bring to the program. And again, regardless if they're a career switcher or a career enhancer, we don't care where you work. We want to, again, look at your experiences, what you've learned from it, how you developed as a leader and as a team member. So all of those things are kind of going into play as we look at our entire class.
And do the directors of the specializations play a role in your admissions process?
They do. So it kind of varies from each of the 10 specializations. Some of them are very active from the standpoint of they review the applications very thoroughly. To some will review part of it, but they're always reviewed by several of us on the admissions committee. Some of the directors will actually conduct the admissions interview. Some of them will be conducted by the admissions team. They're all very involved in our campus visit program. So whether you're a prospective student or an applicant, when you come and you have a specialization, you always meet with the director of that particular specialization. And they're very much part of the engagement process with prospective students, reaching out via email or phone calls, just talking to them about, again, their career focus and their background.
And it's Brad, I like to have a conversation often, and it could be quick, with a prospective student, maybe even before they're applying or during the application process, where I can tell them, one, I always ask them two questions. I feel like there's always point A and point B. Point A is where you are today and where you've been, and point B is what you want your MBA experience to get you to. It's where you're going. And so if I can understand A and B, it helps me understand whether this is the best, a great program for you, whether we can really deliver that. And so I like having those conversations, which come alive a little bit, if you will. And that's even before an official interview, or, it can be after that if needed as well. But just sort of a level set of what are you trying to accomplish? Because ultimately, for an MBA, we have to really take seriously the opportunity cost of getting an MBA. The opportunity costs are you're giving up a lot. You're no longer getting a paycheck. You are focused 100% on school. You have some career, there's some risk of going out and actually getting your next job. And so you need to take that very seriously and, know what you want to get out of it.
Yeah, and Betsy, would you mind just giving us a quick overview of the admissions process and what happens? Because I know you guys also have an early decision deadline, I believe.
Yes. So just from a deadline perspective, we have actually multiple deadlines. We do have an early decision deadline that happens at the end of September, where we will guarantee a decision to the candidates by November 1st. And then in return, we expect them to make their decision by early January. Now, it's not one of those early decision deadlines where you must commit. We still allow the candidates to have a choice, because at the end of the day, we want them to be happy with their decision. But I would say the majority of the people that apply during that time period are those that are very serious about Wisconsin, maybe we're their only school that they're applying to, and or maybe we're their number one school and they just want to hear from us first. And so that's the deadline in which we encourage candidates who are kind of in that frame of mind to apply. And then we have a variety of other deadlines, November 1st, January 10th, March 1st, April 10th, and we even have a late deadline of June 1st for our domestic students. April 10th is our last deadline for international students, so we can make sure we can process their student visa in a timely, their I-20 in a timely manner. And we have those deadlines just from the standpoint, because people always ask, why do you have so many, or they're an advantage. We recognize that candidates are at, different places in their lives, different activities at work might get in the way of applying at one point in time versus another. And so we just want people to know that they have a wide variety of ways to apply to Wisconsin at different points in the calendar year, and know that they don't need to rush their application just to submit it early on, because we want them to be able to submit the most competitive application, when they're ready. And I think your other half of the question was tell you about the admissions process.
Yeah. Is it, and yes. Sorry, I'm jumping the gun on what I want to ask, but yes, your admissions process.
Do you want to ask that question?
Well, I want to ask about your interviews, actually, is where I really want to go. But I just wanted to make sure maybe there were other parts of your process that were unique.
I don't know that the application process is all that unique compared to other programs. We require essays, just like probably most schools do. We have one required essay. Then we have what we call a recommended, which is topic based. And so it's not required, but we highly recommend it because, again, it's a window into who you are as a person. And then we always have the optional essay where it's, fill in the blanks, tell us anything you want to know, more about yourself. We do require one recommendation. Your transcripts, GMAC, GRE would be required. And then if you're an international student where English is not your primary language and or you did not study in an English-speaking institution, you may need to take the TOEFL.
Yes. Got it. Yep. And yeah, those interviews, are they conducted by the admissions team? Sometimes the directors of the specializations, students?
Not by students. So our students are involved during the campus visits, but it's not a formal admissions interview, but they do have a chance to talk with a prospective student. That person has a chance to ask them a lot of questions. But for the actual admissions interview, it's either going to be done by one of us on the admissions team or a center director. So again, it kind of varies by each specialization. And we do those in person or by a video. So it's up to the candidate which one they would like to do.
Yes. And what sort of questions are asked during those interviews?
Well, a variety.
Oh, you're not going to tell us all the questions you ask?
I can't, that would be a surprise, wouldn't it? I would say for candidates, always prepare for behavioral questions, much like you would for an interview. We're here to get to know you and your experiences and kind of, why you're interested in Wisconsin and how you fit with Wisconsin. So depending on the specialization, there will be probably some questions that will dive a little deeper into that area to try to get at your skill sets. And, there will be questions just in general about your leadership, your teamwork skills, your ability to work in, challenging and difficult situations. And we always obviously allow them time to ask us questions as well. But I would say how you prepare for an employment interview is probably in the same vein that you should be practicing and applying, or applying when you, I guess, practice for your admissions interview.
And I'd like both of you to answer this question. What makes, an applicant really jump off the page and get you super pumped?
All right. Well, I'll start. So their essays really get me excited because I really want to get to know who they are as a person. And I think the essays are really a window into who you are as an individual. It's one thing, obviously I want to know why you're excited about joining our program and your career goals, but I also want to know about some of your other experiences that you have. So the candidates who do take advantage of the recommended essay and share with us more information, because it's not just about, why do you want to do an MBA? It's about other aspects of their life. And the candidates who use that optional essay for a variety of reasons, a lot of times they use it for what we'll call the negative, like why they didn't do well as an undergrad. But those who use it to talk about other things beyond that, like about their community service, their experiences that they've had outside of work, that really gets me excited because I feel like I get to start to know who you are as a person. So that when I do have a chance to meet with you, whether it's through a campus visit or through a phone call or through an interview, I already feel like I have a sense of, oh, yeah, I know who you are. And I know, I have other questions than I might want to ask that person because I've gotten to know them a little bit better through what they've written.
Yeah, and I'd say for me, it's about really the passion. So I want to be, I try to, in my work here at the school, bring a passion myself. And we have this group of people that are all joining in this activity together. And I just want to be sure that I have a person that's really going to be, that is one is a passionate person that's going to be passionate about this endeavor, not in a narrow way, meaning not that, finance is the only and everything that's great about, anything I'd love to learn, but more that they're very interested, that they have a reason and they have somewhere they want to go. And I think I've seen that in a variety of settings. I've seen that from a musician. I've seen that from a CPA that wants to be a more senior executive. I've seen it in a lot of different iterations, but it's sort of this authentic passion, I think, does come through in an application. And I think ultimately comes through to your employers and to what you're doing after school as well. So our job is sort of to identify that early and then encourage it while you're here, and then give you the platform to show that to the employers that you're most interested in pursuing.
I mean, would it be fair to say that passion is manifested in a kind of action orientation?
I think so. Yeah, I think that.
'Cause that's what it sounds like, like someone who's really kind of initiating, say conversations with yourself or Betsy or, other members of the team. I think it's great that you guys have so many student ambassadors that are willing to talk to applicants as well. And I mean, yeah, just that's what it sounds like to me as an outsider. Just one last question on the admissions front. What last tips could you give applicants to improve their chances of admissions to your program?
Well, take your time and don't rush your application. We want to be able to self forward. And so, again, probably an advantage of having those multiple deadlines is that you don't need to rush your application. So do take your time with your essays. It is something that you'll write them, you'll relook at them, you'll maybe have other people take a look at them. Make sure that you address the question. That's really important. And then do take advantage of the opportunities that are presented to you in the form of the recommended essay and the optional essay. I would say also be careful in who you select as your recommender. They are the person who hopefully are going to reinforce all the great things that you've now just told us about yourself, that your recommender will be able to reinforce that. And then, do prepare academically. We look at someone's undergraduate record, which is historical information, but we're also going to look at your GMAT or your GRE. So do take time to focus on that. Most people can't take that just outright. They do need a little time to study for it. And then again, just take your time with the application.
Yes. And I noticed you only require one recommendation. So, would you prefer to get one recommendation, or do you think having two helps, like give you more kind of data points on an applicant?
That's a good question. I would say one or two is fine. It's about who you select. So what we're really looking for are professional recommendations who can talk about your leadership, your team, your involvement in a work setting, your ability to deal with challenging and stressful situations. So if you have two people who can speak directly to that, that's fine. But we only require the one to make the application complete.
Got it. Crystal clear. Great. For the financing side and scholarship side of the equation at Wisconsin, could you tell us more about what opportunities are available at this Wisconsin MBA? We have a lot of international listeners, and I'd just love to hear kind of what's going on in terms of scholarships at Wisconsin.
Sure. So all of our candidates are automatically considered for any of our merit-based financial aid that we offer at Wisconsin. So it's really based on the merits of your application. There's no additional step that any of the students need to take. So as we review and as a committee, we discuss the person's admission. We'll also discuss the merit aid opportunities that they have. So we have a variety. So scholarships, which are really what we call cash awards, they can range from several $1,000s, up to $10,000 plus. We also have what we call tuition awards, which can cover if you are a non-resident. So to our international listeners, you would be considered non-residents of Wisconsin. You might get a tuition award that would, in a sense, provide you the resident rate of tuition at Wisconsin and you wouldn't have to pay the differential in the non-resident. Or you might even get an award that covers all of your tuition. It could be for a semester or it could be for all 4 semesters. And then we do have a package called the Wisconsin Distinguished Graduate Fellowship, which we can award to probably about 7 to 9 students in any given year. It's a 1-year package, but it does cover your entire tuition. It provides you a very generous stipend that is paid out over the course of the academic year, and you even get health insurance with that particular package. And we also have a number of teaching assistantships. Those are typically awarded to students, though, in their second year. So we don't have a lot for the first-year students, but in the second year, you can be a TA. And again, the TA benefits are covering all of your tuition. You do get a work stipend. And because you're considered a university employee, you too qualify for health insurance.
Yeah, one thing I'd say in my practice in the corporate finance group, the finance department has a number of TA opportunities, and generally the students that are interested in pursuing that in their second year are able to do that. And so it provides a really meaningful, you're actually working for the university at that point, but tuition is free and a stipend. It's pretty meaningful for people.
And Darren, Wisconsin is also a member of RAMBA. So we have 2 RAMBA fellowships. So for candidates who are part of the LGBT community and or allies would be qualified for a RAMBA fellowship. And we just became a Forte sponsor school at the beginning of January. So we also have several Forte fellowships that can be given out to some of our women applicants. And we are one of the founding members of the consortium, so the Consortium for Graduate Study and Management. And again, we have a number of consortium fellowships that we love to award every year.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. It was really great to read that. So yeah, let's talk about careers and what's going on with your students. Oh, I just want to point out that when we mentioned that the Wisconsin MBA is relatively smaller or, a more boutique MBA, you usually get about 80 students a year, 80 participants. I'd just like our listeners to kind of know the scale of.
Yeah, so it's probably about between 80 to 100 students in any given year.
Got it. Okay, 80 to 100. So on the career side, I'm curious to hear, first, I think I know what makes the Wisconsin MBA special from a career perspective, right? Which is what I wanted to ask. But are you seeing any trends in your placements in terms of where your students are heading, which industries and which functions?
Well, yes and no. I mean, so tech has been kind of a hot area within the last few years. And that's, I think even from our finance students maybe interested in tech to our marketing students, clearly our operations students. I think that's just been kind of a buzz area that they've been going into. I guess what's nice, because we are, like you said, a kind of more boutique or with the 10 specializations, we have a wide variety of interests from our students in many different kind of, functional areas or in many different industries that they can go into. So we attract a pretty broad recruiter base for on-campus recruiting and recruiters who also post within the tool that we use for the students to be able to find job opportunities. But I'd say tech has probably been a direction that's popped up a little bit more.
Yeah, one thing I'd say is our students in my specialization in particular have done very well. So our placement rate for last year's intern and last year full-time is 100%. So everyone's gotten an opportunity. We've had employers who have reached out to us to come visit our program because they think it is differentiated. So they want to come in and they usually present to our students. But like especially when they see the things we're doing on the consulting side, they want to come and investigate it. So we see employers coming down and visiting us. And then lastly, I'd say it's a really good time, I think, to be outreaching and trying to get into that different career. And, as I think about the economy and how it's doing and employers and their need for really talented people that can, the MBA is a time, by the way, to revamp your skill sets, but also to get things like data analytics capabilities, which we have a certificate to do. And those can be differentiated skills that people in the working world don't have the time to really get. And so what we're seeing is that I think our employers are recognizing, one, our MBAs may be closer to the ground with respect to a lot of the data analytics and the new trends that are happening in the economy, and two, really need some really talented strategic thinkers for their companies. And so our students have had a lot of success because of that.
Yeah. And you beat me to my next question, but I was wondering how, or if you think employers, the skill sets they're looking for, the attributes, the qualities they're looking for from your graduates, has that changed over, say, the past 10 years? And do you think it's going to change moving into the future?
I think so. I think we need to always be innovating in our curriculum to make sure that we are ahead of important emerging trends. We've done things. I've introduced a course here on blockchain and cryptocurrencies that we have done, but that's one part. Need to really understand, I think, emerging technology, and specifically on the data analytics side. I don't know, there's something on the data analytics side that I think almost every functional area cares about now. And it's a real opportunity for you to get that skill set. We have a machine learning class where you can do Python programming and do programming in R. These are things that I encourage my students to do because I think they need both the traditional finance mindset and they need this data analytics capacity because I think going forward it's going to become much more important. And finally, I think they expect our students to be really self-teachers, meaning I need to teach my students how to encounter new and challenging subject matters and not always be told what the answer is, meaning I need to go out and discover and become a self-educator around new and emerging areas because, to be honest, we can't tell you every single area that you're going to need to know for success in the working world. We can get you started with some really important ones, but you need to develop the capability to self-learn constantly going forward in an unstructured environment. And I think that's important.
Yeah. And Betsy, one career question for you. I mean, I noticed that you have quite a lot of students in the brand and product management specialization. And I'm wondering if that translates into, for example, more graduates moving into marketing or, that industry and those functions. And if that's been normal, or is it just this last year where there are a lot of people in that specialization?
Well, I do think that marketing, operations, and finance, just in general, those three areas tend to attract probably the majority of the students. And between our two marketing programs, the marketing research and the brand and product management does tend to be a little bit bigger. And so I think if you look at any MBA program, you'll probably see that there's a little bit of a growth in that area.
Got it. Yes. And how are students connected to alumni? Is it mainly, again, through the specializations?
Yeah, I'd say that's probably the primary. They can be connected through alumni through their career coach. They'll be connected to alumni through our Leadership Catalyst program. But I think the centers really have the best connection if you want to be connected to another MBA alum from that particular center. But we also, the Badger Network, just in general, so regardless if you're an MBA alum or an undergrad from Wisconsin or from another graduate program, just that Badger Network is pretty strong as well.
Got it. Yeah. And just my last question to both of you is, is there anything else about the Wisconsin MBA that you just wish more applicants knew about?
There's so many things I wish they knew more about, which this I think will help because I do wish they knew more about our center directors and the background and the passion that they bring and how engaged they are in helping the students to be successful. I guess my second thing that I really want people to know about is that if you come to Wisconsin, you have an opportunity to be a part of a really fabulous MBA program that is going to give you that general management and depth of knowledge, but it sets you up for career opportunities, nationally and internationally. We often hear, where do your graduates work in Wisconsin? Well, they don't always work in Wisconsin. Some do, because we have fabulous companies like S.C. Johnson and Kimberly-Clark that are here in Wisconsin, but they go off and they work in other companies. They are they're in New York, they're out in California, they're international. So to know that there's this endless supply of, different directions that you can go with your Wisconsin MBA.
Yeah, I think that's well said, and I totally agree. I think this is about almost a tailored and customized experience for those students that do come here. I'll give one example. We provided a platform for a student this year who was a first-year MBA to teach us, our alumni and businesses, about an area of expertise that he knew about very well, and he presented on what a CFO should know about X topic. And we set up an opportunity for him to do that. We had employers come in who were not associated with the University of Wisconsin, who were interested in the topic. He presented on that, and it went very, very well. And so we're here to help also provide a platform for students to get where they want to be. And so I'd say, look, that tailored and customized approach with their kind of the possibilities that Betsy mentioned is what I think is really key to the program.
Well, let's end it there, and I'll be sure to link to many of the things we talked about during this episode, especially how to get in touch with your team, Betsy. But I want to thank you so much, Betsy and Brad, for being on the show. I really enjoyed learning more about the Wisconsin MBA today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Darren. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Touch MBA podcast. Don't be shy. We have a mailing list. Go to touchmba.com and get yourself signed up. And we'll keep you posted with the best tips and insider interviews on how to get into your number one school. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook at Touch MBA. See you soon.